This is Lizzie from Let Zoe Spoil You.
And Sagira from Sagira Salutes You. And together, we are Newbie versus Weeaboo. Sagira, Newbie.
Lizzie, a Weeaboo.
It's Newbie versus Weeaboo.
Ahoy, hoy.
Hello, hellos.
You alright?
Yeah, it's a beautiful day.
Again?
I can't really do anything, but I'm enjoying the fact that it's a beautiful day. I'm planning on taking some of my comics outside and sitting in the garden and reading them. Just as a change of scenery.
It's a good time to catch up on reading, for sure.
Yeah.
I have yet to pick up a book.
Yeah, me too. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to read. And I mean, when I read, not fan fiction on my laptop, I'm going to read something,
Paper.
published.
Something with texture. Yeah, I've been mostly doing colouring, doing adult colouring. That sounds rude, but it's not. It just means it's a little bit harder than children's colouring.
Very nice.
Finer lines. So yeah, that's quite nice for well-being. So yeah, I advise doing some adult colouring if you're a bit stressed out and need to escape for a little while and not watching a screen of some sort, because I'm finding that really hard. Watching a lot of screens. I'm either editing or I'm watching the telly or I'm listening to a podcast. Like, everything is electrical. It's like, no, put it down, move away, look at a wall for a little bit.
Yeah.
My eyes are starting to get strained. Nothing else? Okay.
My days are pretty much the same, you know. It doesn't get much more exciting.
All right. So we are now on to episode 17 of Neon Genesis Evangelion, the fourth to be qualified, which means only one thing, as there are 3 pilots, this must be the 4th pilot.
Yes.
Ooh, it was very excited reading that. So I was like, ooh, a new pilot, thank God. Okay, so we open with Misato being questioned as to why she will not let them talk to Shinji about the void in the last episode. They're saying, well, we need to ask him what he saw and we need to know what he went through. And she's like, no, he can't. He's not in the position and he's not in a place to be talking about it. We're letting him rest, leave the boy alone.
He's literally traumatized. He needs to recover. He does not want to be interrogated.
And she's trying to ask questions and they're like, no, you still can't know anything. Poor Misato. She has such big responsibilities and they're not telling her anything. They're just saying, these are your orders. Tell the pilots. That's it. That's all she's getting at the moment. So we are kind of the Misato of viewership. Because we know as much as she does. So, I mean, we know a little bit more because of what Gendo says, but Gendo is so flipping cryptic with what he says that we don't actually get anything from it. So
it could mean anything. Like, you know, he could actually just be making like an order for a latte, but then that's, you know, that's what project whatever is. It's just his coffee order.
Exactly. So yeah, we're about as clued up as Misato is. Something that they were asking was, does she think that the angels were using Shinji as a way to communicate to their world?
Yeah.
But from what we saw, I mean, is Shinji talking to Shinji. It was nothing new about angels or Avas or anything like that. So again, if it's meant to be mega cryptic and embedding some sort of subliminal message or something, we don't know yet because it wasn't really anything new.
Fully explain that, but there is a basis for that idea in the fact that when he was in the void, if the angel doesn't like technically have a mouth or a voice, but it's starting to corrupt his synchronization data, it could implant its own subconsciousness into Shinji. So it's a question of like, when Shinji was talking to Shinji, was that Shinji subconsciously arguing with himself, or was that an implanted voice by the angel talking to Shinji? Same like, was the angel using Shinji's subconscious and his memories of things like his mum to try and form a line of dialogue and communicate? But we don't really
so right now we're just seeing it as hallucinations of him being close to death, but like you say, it could be actually messages from angels. They conclude that the angels have been acting independently from each other, but now they are starting to work together. So they're saying each one has been attacking on its own, but now they've all got this common thing that they need to get.
Each one's kind of had its own personal agenda of how it's going to do things, but now they seem to have a more coherent plan of what they want to go after and who's going to do it.
And then we see that Gendo is in the meeting. So he's just sat there being the silent type, as he always is. We pop to the hospital and we see Toji coming towards a room. So he's going to visit his sister. And the fact that they have opened with this shows that this is now taking a bigger role, because we hear a lot about Toji and his sister. It's not the focus of an episode, but we are hearing a lot about it. He's constantly saying, "Oh, my sister in hospital," or he talks about how the Ava's attacked and his sister got hurt. So it is a common thing that keeps coming up, but we are now actually looking deeper into that. And the fact that's come up at the start of an episode means that we should be seeing more of it. In HQ, Ray is talking to Gendo, getting the updates. That's all that was. It was just a tiny little scene of him saying, "Hey, how's school?" And she's like, "Yeah, cool."
And then going, "Do you want to go for food?" "Yeah."
Oh no, that's not yet.
No, that's not yet. That's not yet.
No, that's not yet. And then in school, we find that there's no Ray again, but also no Ida. Ida is not there either, because he is going to look at a battleship or something. So he's off doing other things. But you said that his parents were in the military or something to do with that. Yeah, so he's got a big interest in all that kind of stuff. And then we get the shot of the world and a red dot that goes bleep. But, oh, what was that? Could it be another impact? No, it is not. It is the second branch of nerve. There is more than just one nerve. There is many nerves, which is what we learn in this one. And it has gone.
Yeah, completely
all that is left
vanished, completely eradicated off the face of the planet.
Well, it looks like it's in a crater. I mean, I don't think it is in a crater, because they say it didn't explode. It literally vanished.
Yeah.
It just disappeared, disintegrated. In the same way that Shinji was taken by the shadow.
Yeah. So it's
there's
implied that it's gone into a void, because she says it's like the Acacia field, however you pronounce it, but I'm calling it the void because it's easier to say.
Yeah,
so it's
I've
like
just written void. Void is fine.
It's disappeared. Their last message was, "Help, blah, blah, blah." They're all in a panic, but there's no real evidence to know what the hell happened there. But because of that, they're like, "Oh, quick, we need to transport one of our AVA units to you."
But they were also saying they did come up with, it could be sabotage, it could be the work of
there was
man
like something,
doing
was
it.
it 328 things could have happened that could have caused it. And I'm like, wow, that's a lot of things. But Mitsuko's very much like, this is why you don't experiment with this kind of stuff. And it's implied that because it's a US base, isn't it? Because it's in Nevada. So it's that little dig at the Americans again, of like, you shouldn't play with things you don't understand. And obviously, Nerve in Tokyo 3, and the Japanese, they understand what's going on. They wouldn't have played with those things to, of course, whatever happened there happened. But as I say, there was 328 odd reasons what could have gone down. And it's kind of implied that they've been experimenting. And now they're a bit nervous about what they've got. So they're shipping off one of their AVAs to Tokyo 3 going, "Hey, would you just look after this for us now?"
Which is Unit 3.
Yes.
Which again implies there will be a new pilot.
Yeah, but isn't Unit 3 destroyed? It's Unit 4 that they're shipping.
Is it? No, they keep talking about Unit 3. Unit 4 was destroyed.
Yes, Unit 4 is destroyed. Unit 3. Yeah, sorry. I'm so confused. Yeah. It's because it's the fourth pilot, but it's the fourth pilot for the third AVA. Yeah.
Yes. See, you scared me then, because I was like, "Oh, my notes are wrong." Right, throw these away. Let me go watch it again.
They're shipping off Unit 3 to them because Unit 4 has been destroyed, and they're like, "Oh, whoopsie."
Well, let's get back to the storyline, and I'll clear everything up because my notes are correct now. So Ritsuko and Misato, they're on the weird 2-speed escalator where they're going down slower than it's going up, and you think they'd fix that by now. And they're talking about Unit 3. I meant to write fast escalator. I wrote fat escalator.
Don't body shame the escalator. It's working hard.
That's why it's going faster, because it needs to lose a bit of weight. But yeah, so they're talking about Unit 3 and how it, like you said, that they're going to be receiving it. We cut to Ritsuko showing Gendo the dummy plug prototype. Now, this is the plug that the pilots sit in, but I'm sure we talked about this in the last episode. They're trying to make it so that there is no pilot. And this is the dummy plug. So this is the one that they are testing and they are seeing if it works. And they've transplanted Ray's subconscious into it. Yeah. And they're testing it with Ray again, which is why another reason why Ray isn't in school a lot, because she's doing this project. But because it's a fake, it hasn't got a heart and it hasn't got a soul, which is, again, they explained in another episode that the heart is important to the Ava. So this is why it's unstable and may not work properly. They then end up in front of a fluid tube where Ray likes to hang out. She's in there again in her tube, which we still know nothing about. We don't know why she's in there. We don't know what's...
No. You kind of,
what
part of you is assuming that it's got something to do with the creation of the dummy plug, since all the mechanisms look like a giant brain above her. So it's taking all her readings to feed this giant brain so it can copy her consciousness, because obviously the brain is a very, very complicated thing. And if you wanted to reproduce the human brain, it would be, you'd have to reproduce it on such a massive scale. That's why computers were so big back in the day before they started compacting, because it needs so much memory and cognitive and synapses. So they're obviously using that massive brain above her to do something with her subconscious. That's how I see it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I was assuming as well, but I didn't want to assume because so much is happening. Anything could be going on right now. And then Ritsuko and Gendo start talking about the fourth pilot and choosing from a list, but they're pretty sure who they want. And then, this is when Gendo looks up to Ray saying, "You're right." She's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Let's get some food." And they smile, and it's like, oh, there's that relationship. So they like to eat together.
Yeah.
Which is quite an intimate thing, really, having a meal together. So back at school, Asuka is hangry because Shinji forgot her lunch, and they're all poking fun.
The girl could make her own lunch. It's not Shinji's job to make his lunch every day, and he was busy. But yeah, she's Asuka.
But then everyone's making fun, saying like, "Oh, look, they're at it again. The lovers are at it," and they're like, "We're not lovers, meh." But it's got to keep coming up, isn't it? As long as they're fighting and have any sort of relationship together, they're gonna be seen as a couple. So we cut to Misato talking to Ritsuko about Unit 3. Ritsuko is catching her up, and she's explaining like, Unit 3 is coming, we're picking the fourth pilot, and Ritsuko loves cats. She has cats everywhere.
I was going to say, the token was literally because he went to somewhere that was famous for cats, brought her back a cat token. Because I love the mug that's just going, cat, 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 cat.
Yeah. And she's got the little black and white yin and yang cats on her desk, and it's like, oh, she loves cats, yay. She's suddenly become very, relatable to me. It's like this very serious scientist who's got a really important job, but then her weakness is cats. But yes. Misato questions Ritsuko about secrets, asking her point blank, "Is there anything that you are keeping from me?" She's like, no, there's nothing I'm keeping from you, which is a lie. And she does it so easily.
Yeah.
Like, she lied so much that she's just, it's fine, which is really sad because they'd be like really good friends. And when Misato is shown the new pilot, she's not too pleased. She doesn't react in the best of ways to who it is.
Yeah. She's like, oh no. Oh, he's going to be upset about that, referring to Shinji.
Back in school, Toji is asked by the school rep if he would do some errands because it's his turn. And Ray is supposed to be helping him, but she's not there. So she's like, "Can you deliver these papers, please, to Ray?" And he's like, "Well, I'm not going to go to a girl's apartment by myself." Yeah. Ugh, heck no. So the class rep, now we are starting to see her attraction to him because she's like, "Well, I could go." He's like, "Shinji, walk me home." So he's oblivious to
that poor Hikaru who fancies
the thing. Yeah. They walk to Ray's place, and Shinji just lets himself in because that's how comfortable he is now.
Yeah. He's like, I've done this before, be fine.
Yeah. Well, he got attacked last time, so I don't know why he's being so nonchalant about going in. He got attacked by a naked woman in a towel last time.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's what he wants. Who knows?
Yeah. Who knows?
And Toji is surprised by the mess in the place because Ray spends such little time there, it seems, and it's kind of a facade, that place. It's just somewhere she sleeps. She doesn't actually live there, really. She takes her medication, showers, sleeps, and that's it.
Yep, and then she's
not much of a home.
In test tubes, really.
Yeah.
Test tubes, school, sleep.
And Shinji starts to clean up for her because he's a nice guy, but Toji refuses. He's like, "That's woman's work. I ain't doing that. That's the principle of the thing."
And then you're like, dick.
Is that speaking about the time that this was made, or?
It's still like that.
Well, yeah, we know, but...
But yeah, women are housewives and good mothers. Men don't do housework. It's a woman's job.
Men are out doing other jobs.
Yeah, they're meant to be providing and working and having business meetings.
Well, Shinji doesn't see it like that. He's he's a good person and wants to help. I love it how Shinji uses Misato as kind of like, well, what would you say this to Miss Misato? What would she think? Sort of thing, even though she's the biggest slob ever. She doesn't care.
But it's the line that's like, Misato hates men who think like that. And trying to get him to help. And he's like, no, I'm sticking with my principles. I'm just going to have to accept that Misato might hate the fact that I'm a manly man that doesn't tidy up.
At this point, Rei comes home and Shinji says, like, I was just cleaning up for you. And she blushes and she's like, oh, thank you.
I know, it's so cute. It's like, oh, look at your little blush. You just weren't expecting anyone to do something so genuine for you.
But then they leave, and then we're left with another soliloquy from Rei about gratitude and how she hasn't said thank you to Gendo or anything like that.
No,
so
that's the first time she said thank you out loud. It's the first time. I think it's the first time someone has done something so genuine for her without any other reason for it, or without wanting anything from her. So it's the first time someone's shown her genuine kindness for her actions without wanting anything in exchange, and so she is touched and embarrassed.
But then Gendo taking her out for dinner, are we to assume that he's doing that because of all the work that she's doing? But then that's a thank you, so
but I mean, come on, Gendo's the most stunted human as well. He's not exactly going to be going, thank you, Ray, do you want some food? So there's a difference in doing gestures of thanks but actually saying thank you. It's the first time she felt the need to say it. She kind of just assumes with Gendo that she's being appreciated and praised. But at the same time, there's always that idea that she's doing things to be praised with him, a bit like Shinji does. And she's also kind of there's always that little self-doubt that he's only so kind to her because he needs her for something. And
also, Shinji, he did it without being asked. He did it he didn't have to do it. It's not his house, and he doesn't owe her anything. So he's literally just doing it because he wanted to do it for her.
So it was an absolute unselfish, genuine gesture.
And then we go into part 2, which is called Fourth Children. Gendo and the deputy commander are shooting the breeze on the train, just having a little chat about everything, talking about man and the city.
Yeah.
And they say something, what is it Gendo says? That the city's camouflage for Nerve. So am I to assume that they built Nerve and then built a city on top of it? Or they built Nerve under a city knowing it was going to hide them? Or what came first?
You start getting the idea of how much of a front the actual Tokyo 3 cityscape is, including all its inhabitants. But it was always built around Nerve. Nerve is kind of there first, and there's the reason for them being there is Nerve, and there's just something more to this city, because it's the only one that has the built-in, oh look, Ava weapons just seem to shoot out of the ground and stuff. And they were quoting the stuff about how man left the Garden of Eden and then built their own Eden to survive, but it's not a perfect altruistic Eden. The original Eden is you get things but you don't need to put anything in. This one it's a human-made Eden, so that there's greed in it and corruption in it and lies, because that's what happened when they ate the fruit. So man can never create a true Eden, but this is as close as they've come. They've made a self-sufficient city that caters for the desires of the people who live in it, so it's their personal Eden.
Gendo, through this conversation, it seems like he knows more to what happened to Nerve 2, but he's not saying anything.
Nope.
As always. He doesn't really care about Nerve 2 because the data was sent to Germany, so it's safe.
Yep.
And Unit 1 is fine, so he's not bothered about anything else. Those are the two important things. Yep. Data and Unit 1. That's it. Not Rei, not Shinji, not Units 0 and 2, just Unit 1. But why? Let's watch. Kaji and Maya are flirting in the dressing room. So that's just showing that Kaji is still being a dog.
Yeah.
But Misato catches him and she starts to question him about what he knows. She wants to know more from him. And the only thing that he's going to tell her is that the Marduk Institute, which is where I assume they get all the pilots from.
Yeah.
Is that right? It is a front. It does not exist because Nerve rules everything.
Yes, so the Marduk Institute is meant to be this other aspect of the government, and it has all the information pertaining to potential pilots. It's meant to use the data to choose who's going to be an Ava pilot and then send them to Nerve. But it's all a front.
Yes, but the other clue he gives her is to look up code 707, to which she says, that's Shinji's school.
Yes.
So, and then I started to notice after that was said that we don't actually see any other children, any other classes, anything other than that class in the entire school.
Yes, and remember Ritsuko's line from earlier, where she kind of goes, oh, we found the fourth pilot, and it's like, well, that's one of the reasons we keep the children so close together.
Yes, so we know that the fourth pilot is in that class. It's one of those children. So that's really interesting. And it's obviously going to be one of the people that we follow, because why would they just bring in some random at this point?
And it's also someone that's going to upset Shinji.
Yes, so it's one of his friends. So that narrows it down to Ida, Toji, and the class rep. What's her name?
Hikari.
But then they said it's a he, so that takes her out of it. So then it's Ida or Toji. So that's what we have to keep in mind.
The other thing I noticed in this episode, because I've been watching them so close together, is you only ever see that like one teacher dude come in. And the lecture he was giving today is exactly the same lecture he was giving at the beginning. So he literally reads the textbook to the end and has started the textbook again from the beginning, because he's telling the exact same history of the Second Impact. So
yes,
they're just learning a false history on repeat at the moment in this school. And you're starting to realise, wait a minute, if this city was purposefully built and these children are staying there, it's like, oh, Nerve are controlling everything down to potential test pilots and pilots for the Ava unit and keeping them all close together so they can monitor them. So even at school, they're being monitored.
After the talk between Misato and Kaji, Shinji walks in and Misato makes herself scarce. And Kaji invites Shinji out for a drink, to which he replies, I'm not a girl.
Shinji's so, just thinks Kaji just chases girls around all the time and that's about it. So he's a bit like, but I'm not a girl. It's like, no, guys can hang out as mates. Kaji can also be a decent human being sometimes.
Which we find out in the next conversation, because they go outside and have a look at the lovely landscape while they have a drink. And Kaji's like, hey, going to show you something. It's a watermelon farm. Ah. And then he starts using it as a metaphor for growing and improving and all that stuff. So it's a little lesson for Shinji.
Yeah, imparting some wisdom.
And Kaji then gets a phone call saying that it's time for a sync test. So they've got to go back to HQ where Shinji is put into a tube again. But this time his sync rate has gone down, and they're assuming that this is because of the void that he was in. So it's done something to stop him from fully syncing with Unit 1.
His mind is not quite with it now.
Back in school, Ida is back, and Toji is called to the principal's office. Shinji talks to Ida, who informs about Unit 3, and that it is the US Ava. I'm pretty sure they were talking about it being Unit 6 in another episode that the US were funding.
I think the US have a couple.
Okay, fair enough. And then I put, of course, that's the Nerve that disappears, the US one. Of course it was. If they're going to take down any country, it'll be the US. Then Ida wants to be a pilot, and they talk about how Unit 4 was delisted, that it's no longer with us. And then we hear the end of the meeting that Toji was a part of, and from that we assume that he is the new pilot because he's talking to Ritsuko.
Yeah.
Why else would he be talking to her at this time other than to be told that you are the new pilot?
She was like, oh, we're going to inform him the next day, and then she's in school going, ha, so you're Toji Suzuhara then.
Now, what I found interesting for this episode and the next one is that at no point do they say that he is the pilot by name. They don't say Toji is the pilot, or even if people who know he's the pilot, Misato and Ritsuko, they're talking about it, they don't mention his name at all. They just keep talking about the fourth child or the new pilot, nor does Toji ever bring it up to anyone.
Yeah.
So it's like there's putting doubt in your mind that that's what he's been asked to do, even though you know at this point that he is the fourth pilot. But this whole time I was trying not to be like, well, he's definitely the pilot, because it's like, no, they haven't said it at all.
Yeah, they want to still keep it because they want that moment of shock for you to feel it as bad as when Shinji finds out. They sow that seed of doubt so that you're like, there's no way that could be Toji, because they wouldn't do that to a kid. So we're going to find out it was someone else all along, and therefore it's not going to be so shocking and upsetting for us.
But now we're jumping ahead, so let's go back.
Yep.
So Toji has just come out of the meeting. He seems to be finding it very difficult that he's been given this role. And he's not himself. He's very reserved. He's quiet. He has his lunch at the end of the day, to which the class rep is like, I'll make you lunch, because she's sweet and she likes him. Asuka goes to visit Kaji, and it's at this point that she learns who the new pilot is, because she goes over his shoulder and the computer's like, what? It's him? So she's not happy about it either. She's not having a great time at the moment, Asuka. Everything seems to just be upsetting her all the time.
Yeah, she's been triggered by everything. Everything is just annoying her, upsetting her, and she's just not getting her way or having the wonderful time she thinks she should be having.
And then we end the episode with a very still moment of Toji in the playground with basketball. And it just, for a while, he's just stood there staring at the net.
Yeah.
And it's just still and quiet. And then he makes the shot. And then credits.
Yes.
And that's the end of that episode. It just gives a whole new light to Toji now, because all they want to do is be a part of the action and be, one of the pilots. But all of a sudden he is one, and it's not a fantasy anymore. It is a reality.
Yeah. He's still kind of worried about his sister, because it was his sister that was hurt by one of this. So he's got that concern in his head that if he goes out and makes a mistake, he'll create other victims like his sister. It's very close to home to him. He's not as detached as the other Ava pilots are.
It's kind of ironic that, because you're saying he's not as attached, but I can't talk about it now. I have to talk about it in the next episode, because I don't want to jump ahead again. On to episode 18, Life and Death Decisions. So this is obviously going to be a dramatic one. So we open this episode with a plane flying over, and it's got Unit 3 attached to it. It flies into a cloud, and then there's some lightning. So we know that something has happened, because it's a very clear day. It's not like it's stormy. Yeah. It's not like there's a lightning strike going on or anything. Just there's a little bolt of lightning as it flies into the cloud, and then nothing. So something has happened. And because it takes so long until you get to the end of the episode, you forget this, because I had to go, oh yes, there was a bolt of lightning.
Yeah.
We find out what that is later. In the flat, Asuka is now trying to avoid Misato, because she's, I don't know, falling more in love with Kaji, I'm guessing. And because Misato is clearly still a thing in Kaji's life, she's like, no, I don't want to talk to you. You've got things that I want.
She's basically just being an angsty pain in the butt 14-year-old girl.
Just making things worse for herself, because she's creating all these problems. If she just didn't think about these things and think more about being a pilot and her job at hand, then she wouldn't be so stressed out all the time. Shinji questions Misato about Unit 4 and Unit 3. So he's asking her, so what happened to Unit 4? Why is it out of the loop? And what about Unit 3? What's going on with this? And Misato is off to do a activation test for Unit 3. So she's leaving them with Ritsuko. And they're going to, can you pronounce it?
Oh,
Matsushiro?
Matsushiro, yeah.
Matsushiro, yes. They're off to Matsushiro. Obviously, that means that they're going away from HQ and away from the Avas. So Shinji's a little bit worried, but she's like, it's fine. Kaji's looking after you. Great. They get a knock on the door, and it's Ida. And he is desperate to be the pilot for Unit 3. He's begging Misato to be it. And we already know that he's not.
Yeah.
We already know it's been chosen. And she's trying to tell Shinji who it is, but she gets cut off by this knock at the door. But also she keeps hesitating. She doesn't want to tell him who it is. But at this point, Misato knows, Ritsuko knows, Gendo knows, Rei knows, Asuka knows, and poor Shinji's left in the dark. And he's left in the dark a lot in this episode. Like, there's so much stuff. Especially when Ida starts questioning him about everything. He's like, I don't know.
Yeah,
it's like, wow,
he starts realising just how much he doesn't actually know about what he's doing. He's just kind of taking it as face value and going, cool, I'll do that.
And whereas Misato, she doesn't know all the intricate details, the things that might get Nerve into trouble, she still knows more than Shinji does. So the fact that we feel sorry for Misato not knowing anything, we feel even more sorry for Shinji, who is literally face value of everything. This is what you know. What you see is what you know. He's not being told anything. Asuka is now coming to school in the worst mood ever. She's upset about Misato and Kaji. She's upset about the new pilot. She's probably hangry again.
She's creating all the stress herself, as you say. It's like, oh my goodness, none of this stuff actually has anything to do with you, girl. There's don't need to be this. But she doesn't like not being number one, and all these other things seem to be more important than her. And she hates not being number one and not being like super worshipped.
And then lunchtime rolls around, and Shinji and Ida have started to notice that Toji is acting differently. And he's up on the roof by himself, and Ray comes and checks on him, which is really nice.
Yeah.
And he mentions that she is checking on him because she cares about Shinji, which again, she blushes.
Yeah.
So that is obviously something that is happening to Ray that she doesn't fully understand, is that she cares about this boy, but she's not actively doing things. She's doing stuff without realizing she's doing it to protect Shinji. She's just doing it like it's an impulse to do these things. We have a very small scene where Misato is still waiting for Unit 3 to come in. But this is important because as it's being brought in, it is put on a cross.
Yeah.
And it looks like, again, it's being crucified on the cross. So that's, again, more symbolism to the whole religious storyline. Back at school, Toji is still not happy. He's still upset by everything. He's still contemplating and thinking about what he has to do. Asuka and his class rep, they walk home together because they want to talk about boys. The class rep she's concerned because she saw Toji and Ray up on the roof. So now she thinks that that Toji has a thing for Ray.
Yeah.
But Asuka's like, no, you think boys are clueless. Ray is so much more clueless when it comes to these things. Do not worry about Ray.
Yeah, there's no threat there from her whatsoever.
So that's a nice little like teenage girly moment.
Yeah, backing up your friend. I do like the face she makes when she goes, what do you even see in him? And she's like, oh, he's so kind. And it's just like, he's like so sweet. And she's like, what?
Back at the flat, and we see that Kaji is staying with Asuka and Shinji, obviously looking after them, protecting them. So Asuka is uber happy, but she can't enjoy it because there's just so much going on and it's just got too much to think about.
Just so much drama.
But again, Shinji brings up that he doesn't know who the pilot is, and she's like, you don't know? And he's like, do you? No.
Yeah, of course I don't.
Well, it's not her place really to tell him. She's doing that thing where she is clever, that if no one else has told him, then it's not her place to tell him. Yeah. There's a reason why they haven't told him yet. So she's like, no, I have no idea. So she's using that intellect that she hides so well at times. And Kaji's like, time for bed, everybody.
Yes. He's like, well, I might as well go to bed early. Seems like the kind of night for everyone to go to bed now.
And he's sharing a room with Shinji, so they're slept in the same room. And at this point, Shinji just starts asking Kaji about his father, asking what's he like. And Kaji's like, well, I was not expecting that question. And he starts going on some philosophical thing about how we don't always completely know others and how a woman, was it girlfriend in Japanese, translates to a woman of distance or something, like she's always out of reach sort of thing. And Shinji's reply to this is he doesn't understand adults.
Which is obviously like, it's the truth.
So basically that conversation did nothing for Shinji.
Yeah.
Kaji said a lot of interesting things, but it just wasn't what Shinji wanted. He wanted to know about his father. We cut to the testing site of Unit 3 and we hear that the pilot has arrived. So we know that Toji is there.
Yeah.
And back at the school, they're talking about it and how they know that today was the day of testing. And then Ida's like, well, hey, maybe it's Toji. He's not in today. And Shinji's like, no, why would it be Toji? Come on, Shinji. You're getting thrown a bone here and you're not taking it.
It's like, come on, guys, put the pieces of the puzzle together. It's kind of obvious. Shinji is a clueless, innocent little man.
Back at the site, they put the plug into the Ava and it suddenly just goes absolutely berserk. And as it's starting to rage out, Ritsuko says, an angel! So it is still Unit 3, but an angel has taken it over. And that's where the lightning bolt at the start came in. Yes. That's what was happening. It was getting injected into the Ava.
Yeah.
Because when she first said it, I was like, oh, well, does that mean that there's an angel inside the unit and Ritsuko didn't know that these things were made out of angels? And it's like, no, of course she knows all that stuff. She knows all the things about the cloning and the implanting. She knows all that. So this is just a completely different thing. It is an actual angel that has been put or been transplanted into the Ava.
Yeah.
And it has kind of taken over its consciousness and its brain, and it's controlling it. And this causes an explosion, and it's very dramatic.
Yes.
And it's like a silence afterwards, and it's like, oh no, because then it goes on to part 2, ambivalence, which after watching this part of the episode is a very good title for it, because for people who are unaware, ambivalence means where you have two contrasting emotions about the same thing. So for example, say like if we were going to do a talk for an assembly or something, and it's about something that you really love, you're really excited about it because it's something that you love talking about. However, you're really scared to do it because you don't want to embarrass yourself. So that's ambivalence, two contrasting emotions about the same thing. I learned that from Red Dwarf.
You can learn a lot from television. I've always said that.
Well, that's it. As many plot holes as Red Dwarf has, it does have some correct sciencey bits. Oh, well, this isn't sciencey. This is just words. But still, there is some correctness in what they say. Back at HQ, they learn of the explosion. All the Avas are thrown out. Go help.
Yeah.
Go find out what's going on. And at this point, they don't know anything. They don't know if it was Unit 3 going berserk. They don't know if it was an angel. They don't know if it was an outside influence. They just know something's gone wrong. There's been an explosion. Everyone needs to go and sort it out. Gendo and the deputy commander are talking about how Ava 3 has been infected with the angel. So they catch on and they know. Because the angel has taken over the unit, it has blocked off where the plug is. So they cannot get the pilot out. So Gendo's just like, well, there's nothing we can do about that. We're just going to have to destroy it. We're just going to have to assume that the Ava is the 13th angel, and we just got to annihilate it.
Yeah. They redesignated as the 13th angel, and they're like, just destroy it, just take it out.
Yeah, and that's not good. Poor Shinji is still confused. He hasn't got a clue what's going on. He's just like, what's happening? He still doesn't know who the pilot is. He's just being told that it's an angel. He has a message from Asuka, who is about to tell him who it is, because she's like, do you still not know who this pilot is? And then she cuts out, and there's a scream. So something has happened to Asuka, which we don't actually ever find out. We know that something bad has happened, but they never show
kind of assume that the angel just knocks her out, because she's just like crumpled on the ground. But it does. It just knocks her out and leaves her. It has no real interest in her.
Rey is next. She's waiting to attack it, and she's got insight and everything, but suddenly it just jumps and lands on her, and it's just the quickest thing ever, because it's an Ava at the end of the day, you know.
She does slightly hesitate because she knows who the pilot is, and she knows that if she kills him, it will upset Shinji, and she suddenly has that where her emotions are coming through, and that moment of hesitation is all it took for this like angel to leap on her and then start trying to merge with her,
because it starts to melt into her arm. And so they're saying, right, eject the arm, get rid of it, because Rey's also injured. And once they eject the arm, the angel loses interest and goes off.
Although they don't sever the nerve connection, so she feels every minute of that.
Yes, it's only when they eject the arm that it stops, commas. So now it goes on to Shinji's turn, and he is conflicted, where ambivalence comes in, because he wants to destroy it because it's his order and it's an angel. However, there is someone inside, he doesn't want to kill them.
Yes.
So, and still doesn't know who it is.
Yeah.
So he just knows it's a person, but that just shows his integrity, because even though he doesn't know it's his friend, he still doesn't want to hurt this person.
He does care about other people.
Yes.
I mean, it's one of the best shots. Like when the first time that Ava rounds the corner, and he's like, are you sure that's an angel? That looks like an Ava. And they're like, no, it's an angel. And then they keep framing it in the darkness with the red sun behind the unit.
Such a good shot.
Just like, oh, that is such an iconic shot from this series.
Yes, that is a really good shot. So then Unit 3, or the angel, attacks Unit 1, and he starts to strangle him, which again, Shinji can feel, and you see the marks on his neck where it's crushing his throat. And Gendo starts getting annoyed and is shouting at him, like, why aren't you attacking? Why aren't you going back at him? He's like, because there's a pilot inside. I refuse to kill him. I would rather die than kill someone else.
Yeah. Shinji is not a murderer. Not in any way, shape, or form.
But Gendo gives no F's about this, and he's like, right, that's it, use the dummy. And they're like, what? So
like, there's a lot of bugs in that.
Yeah, they decide to use the dummy plug that they were talking about earlier, even though it's not fully been tested and it's not fully where it should be. He wants to use it. He wants to save Unit 1. He doesn't want to again, he doesn't care about the pilot. He cares about Unit 1. So if Unit 1 goes down, then he's lost it. So he ignores Shinji, does that. And now we're led onto the most brutal scene so far. You said about the last episode with the sphere Orby thing. No, that was nothing compared to that. Was kittens playing with wool compared to this.
I was holding back. I wasn't going to tell you these things. I knew what was coming up. Remember when I said I can't wait to see your reaction to some things? These are some of these things.
Oh my gosh, like that was just like jaw drop, like just the whole time, just like it was just...
yeah, because Unit 3/13th Angel is more bestial. It's crawling around on floors and stuff, and it's just screaming like an animal, and then it just rips. Yes, then when the dummy plug activates in Unit 1, it goes all like bestial and feral, and poor Shinji's just like, no. And
but that's the most horrific thing, is that Shinji has to sit and watch this. Like, it's there in front of him. He can't escape it. He's stuck in his chair. Yeah, the only thing he can do is close his eyes, but even then all he can do is hear it.
Yeah.
And all he is hearing is limbs being pulled off.
Well, it's even worse than that, because it's like, it's grim. But the thing is you learn a lot more about like the mechanics of an Ava, because as 1 is ripping 3 apart, it pulls out something that looks like internal organs. And you're just like, is that an intestine? Is that a stomach? What the hell is that weird fleshy white thing that you've just like splattered? And it's not just pouring blood, it's viscous, drippy internal blood that's coming on things. And it's just like, and then when it douches its brains in.
The order of what happens is that Unit 1 is being strangled. It then switches over to the dummy plug. It then churns the tides so that Unit 1 is now strangling Unit 3. It crushes its throat so that it becomes limp. It then throws it on the floor, punches it in the head so that the head explodes, and we see an eyeball fly out.
Eyeball, brain matter. Thing is, it should have stopped then. In fact, it could have just stopped when it wringed its neck, because it was like a dead chicken. It's wringed its neck. Battle won. Yeah,
but no, it just wanted to destroy this thing. So it's punching it. It is basically encaving its entire body so it can get to the soft fleshy organs and pull all them out, and then there's an arm in the river, and there's a leg over there, and
all the blood splats up against the buildings. Like, it's a proper like grotesque murder scene being played.
It really is. It is horrific. And then it finishes with holding the plug with the pilot in its hands, and Shinji is going no, and the Unit 1 just cracks it in half. It just squishes it in his hands like a bug.
Yeah.
And that, your stomach, it's like, Toji, no!
Yeah. Oh.
No, just the idea of this huge thing crushing someone in its hands, and like this.
Shinji still doesn't know.
No, and Shinji still doesn't know. And if Toji was still conscious at this point, I doubt it. But if he was still conscious, all he would know is that he was being picked up and then nothing. Like, that's it. And he can't see anything because all communication and stuff is gone. So he's just in a black tube at this point, just feeling everything. It's going, no.
Yeah, especially if they haven't been able to sever his nerve connections, because they can't. He's feeling absolutely everything that happens to the Ava, he will be feeling.
And then we cut to the testing site after the explosion, and we find out that Misato and Ritsuko are okay. They survived the blast. Misato is in more pain than Ritsuko is, but still they're okay. And then Misato feels that now is the time to call up Shinji and tell him who the pilot is. Like, give him a minute. Like, come on.
Yeah.
So
she knows that she should have done it sooner, because you can feel the guilt off her, because she's like, she never expected it to go. She wanted to run the test. Once the test was okay and she knew that Toji was safe and synchronized, she was going to say, oh, by the way, your friend is an Ava pilot, but it's all right. Obviously, it went in the complete opposite direction. It went from everything but all right.
While she's trying to tell him, Shinji can see them helping the pilot, and they get the message saying that the pilot is still alive. What the hell? How the hell did he survive all that? So, but hopefully what happened was when he was being strangled, he passed out from that, and he didn't feel anything else.
Yes, he just ragdolled around. When you ragdoll, you break less things and damage less things.
So hopefully that's when he passed out and didn't feel limbs being torn off and head being busted in.
Yeah.
It's at that point that when they say that, Shinji looks over and then sees it's Toji, And then we get another Shinji scream.
Yes. Now, I don't know if it's ever going to be as good, because I don't watch the dub, I watch the Japanese, because the guy who does the voice actor for Shinji, the scream he lets out in the Japanese version, they have always been some of the most blood-curdling, like, screams ever put to anything. It's just like, no one screams like the first time I heard them, and they sit, even when the credits are rolling, you can still hear his voice reverberating in your head, and he's got a couple of these screams in him that through the course of the series, and you're just like, but it's like, as you see his eye just gotta go, and you just feel that this must have totally broke him apart, because Shinji's like, Misato, I killed someone, and then luckily the pilot's alive, and he has that moment of like, yay, and then he looks and he's like, it destroys him.
It'd be interesting though how that fight would have gone if he had known it was Toji. Like, would it have like completely broken him, or would he have fought harder to not do that? Would he have run away because he constantly wants to run away? Would he have done that before they could switch him over, or who knows? I think it would have been a very different fight if he had known it was Toji in there. Or he might have tried to help more in another episode where he just went flying at the angel and just ignored orders and just went for it. It could have been like that.
Because if he had stopped it sooner, he could have got his friend out.
So a lot of things could have been different if he'd known it was Toji, but at the same time, if Toji hadn't have survived, it would have been far more crushing for him because it's his friend. And then we've got to wait for the next episode, and I'm sad because it's getting good. Well, it's been good for a while, but
it's always been good, but it's getting intense.
I want to know what's next.
Well, that's what I was saying. It's like, I'm not doing anything for the rest of the day. Do you want to go and watch some more episodes, and we'll reconvene in another hour or two? But no, you have to wait till Tuesday, because I'm getting to the point where I really want you to see some of this stuff, because we're in like the last couple, and it's like, it's so good.
I want to know Toji's okay, because yes, he's alive doesn't mean that he's okay. He might have,
I don't know how okay
he might have internal things that are irreversible and whatnot, and I want to know. I like Toji. He's one of our funny ones. It's like, no, the comedy character is no longer a comedy character.
He's human. He's one of our most human characters. That's why it's also tragic, because he had so much more humanity than anybody else in the show, because everyone else is either adult, has secrets, has got a facade, is not quite themselves, is just like, doesn't know how to relate to people, is a caricature of their own self. He was just normal human boy with human feelings and normal reactions.
So that's episode 17 and 18 of Neon Genesis Evangelion. Yay!
Hey, shocking.
Anything to suggest for the quarantine lockdown entertainment?
I watched some great found footage horror films called Hell House LLC. There's 3 of them. The second one's not as strong as the other 2, but they are one of the better, if not best, found footage, weird haunted hotel found footages out there. I find them really entertaining and creepy. If you don't like clowns or mannequins or doors shut for no apparent reason, then it will creep you out. And all very minimalistic. But gave me some jumps. I also watched Crawl, which is the horror film with them stuck in the crawl space under a house during a flood with alligators. Jesus, that made me jump. It's really edge of your seat. You're just like, for the love of sweet Jesus, get out of the basement. There's an alligator. And then people come and it's like, oh no, you need help. And you're like, look, there's another alligator. It was quite tense. Had my heart racing. Hell House, LLC, and Crawl.
I'm going to suggest a game. It's a game that I haven't played in a long time, and I want to. I've got to find time to do it. Psychonauts. So this is my absolute favourite game of all time, other than Majora's Mask, and is just a really fun, light-hearted game about the human psyche, and you can buy it on Steam. The second one is coming out at some point. The first time they mentioned it was 2012. God, I want my game. I'm so excited. It's a really fun, light-hearted game that you can buy on Steam. I don't think enough people know about it. I think more people need to know the joy of the Psychonaut. But that's my suggestion for today. Social media?
Bringing in the social media on the nom train, since we saw things being ripped apart and I'm hungry and it's about lunchtime. So on the noms, bring on the nom train of social media. Yum, that looks tasty. Yum, that looks tasty. Want a book? Yum, there's a link.
Great, thanks for that. I'm going to bring it in on the... Oh, no, you know what? Because it's been mentioned twice now, I'm going to come on the meow, 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 meow. Mini cats.
There we go.
I'm going slightly mad.
I think as Sagira has her breakdown, I'm going to say, from a weeaboo, this is Johnny.
And from a newbie, it's my brain, my brain.
Meow, 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 meow.
Meow, 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 meow.